Hey everybody, we're live. My name is Jamal with Creatr, and we're going to be doing an awesome Q&A with the amazing CJ Burton. Really quickly, just give everybody a little blurb about yourself, and then we'll get going.
Hi there. So for anybody that doesn't know my work, I do photography, illustration, and basically it's a hybrid of exactly what it sounds, photography and illustration. And you'll see as we kind of go through this how important that process is for me of really kind of relying on my illustration skills and how those translate directly into my photography. And then how my approach makes for unique images that then stand out and allow me to continue to be hired for my vision, I guess, my unique vision, which is everyone's goal who's a visual artist. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. So
cool. And before we jump into some questions and jump into work, how did you study photography first or illustration? Just really talk about that. Give it a little bit of background there.
Sure, well, I could go really far back, but
hey, we don't want to go too far back.
I can go back to Mrs. Wall's class in second grade, and I remember. No, I always kind of had a first of all, a fascination with filmmaking was probably where it started for me, and then an inkling to sort of draw everything out. And so I would reverse storyboard all of my favorite movies when I was a kid. Like obviously Star Wars, I kind of started there, but I would do like Top Gun, like I would do any movie that I would fell in love with as a child, like E.T., whatever it was. And I would grab these notebooks, these sketchbooks, and I would storyboard the entire movie out for myself. And I still have it in my storage, but it's like a collection of illustrated versions of all my favorite movies that I did. I did a bunch of superheroes and all kinds of stuff, but and then I would like at the end of them, I would put like a little publishing company. It was like CJ Burton Publishing or whatever at the end of each one of these. And they're eerily similar to the sketchbooks that I keep today. So I think at a young age, I knew that I liked to draw and sketch things out and to illustrate things. So it took me a while to kind of come back around. My dad is a wedding photographer. He's retired now, but he's actually a police officer, but his day job was a police officer, but his night job was to shoot weddings. And so he kind of brought me in at a young age shooting weddings for him. And so I became familiar with cameras at a young age, and I was shooting weddings by the time I was 17. And had never thought to myself ever that I was going to be a photographer for a living, because to me, that was all there was to it, was taking portraits and shooting weddings. And it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. But there became a time when I was going to school, trying to figure out where I was going to go and what I was going to do, and I had some images, and I ran into a teacher who was interested in the work that I was doing, and he suggested I just go spend some time at a school in California, in Pasadena, called the Art Center, and just walk through and just see the gallery there and talk to some teachers. And he talked to me about commercial photography, and I was like, "What's commercial photography?" Like I had no idea. So it was kind of a learning experience for me to step away from photography in some way. And so I went, and I was a photography major at the Art Center. I put a portfolio together, got accepted, and so I went to the Art Center. I was a photography major and then a film minor. And I was lost for a little while in the photography world, because I wasn't like some of the other photography students that could just kind of walk in and see something and then just pull out the camera and just take an amazing photograph. Like, oh, the way the light's hitting this, I've just got to capture it. I never had that instinct. And it was when I went in and spent a lot of time in the film department and started actually going back to that thing I did at a young age, where I was storyboarding everything. And I realized, oh, this is where I actually love the creative process, taking a script and then storyboarding it. And then that really made a lot of sense to me, that we knew exactly what we had to shoot because it had all been drawn out beforehand. And so I brought that sensibility a little bit back into the photography world, and started really spending a lot more time on my concepts, and then I spent some time in advertising as well. And when I started working professionally after school, I would have clients come to me with just basically, oh, this is what we want to do, and then what I would do is I would spend time drawing out those concepts for them and get them all detailed. And we'll go through this here a little bit today. I'll show you my sketchbooks, but so I spent a lot of time with the sketchbook. And then once I have the sketches done, then I'm able to move into the production phase. And then it's just a matter of taking what's already been agreed to between me and the client as what the image is going to look like, and then just kind of placing all those elements in together. So that's it in kind of a nutshell. I hope that's kind of a nice little summary.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's jump into a kind of question, because I think it veers quite nicely, which is, what was your first commercial break as a photographer? How did it come about? You mentioned that a little bit, but I guess talk about when you were like, okay, this whole photography and illustration thing, there's something here.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I, at the Art Center, I had sort of developed this photo illustration, if you will, this kind of look. You know, I had some portraiture in my book, and I had some product photography in my book. And I remember I was showing my book to a creative director from MCA Records, and he was going through my book, and we were talking about different things. And I'd front loaded the book with this illustration stuff. And what I had kind of run into was this idea of taking like miniature environments. This is what, in the very beginning of my career, this was what really made my work stand out and allowed me to start getting jobs. But I'd fallen into this thing where I was drawing everything out, and then I was like, okay, what's going to be a way to do it? And I think one of them was it was a conceptual ad for NyQuil that I had one of my instructors give me. And the image that I'd come up with was NyQuil to the rescue. Like nothing, or that was what the kind of concept was, which isn't like too out of the ordinary. But the sketch that I'd done was a police car, and there's a policeman jumping out of the car, and it's kind of shot from the back, and it was like, and I was like, okay, so how am I going to get a policeman to like agree to do this for a student at the Art Center? And I obviously spent a lot of time at the hobby shops and comic book stores, those kind of things. My favorite haunts to just kind of hang out in. I love that whole nerd culture. Those are my people. And I found an 18 scale police car, and I was like, what? I could just shoot this. And so I ended up building a little environment with a fake palm tree. You know, it's about a 4x4 foot set, which is typically the size that I work on building sets. And put the police car in there, the little miniature car. And then I just had one of my friends from Art Center like dress up like a Keystone Cop and had him stepping out the door, and then I put it all together. And that was kind of what my work started kind of consisting of in the beginning, was these miniature environments with real people in them, and they just had a really interesting, cool look to it. And I probably had about 10 of these images, and like I said, I was meeting with this creative director, and he was looking through and he was really into it. And then he got to like the portraiture section of my portfolio, and he's like, "Yeah, that's okay." And then he got to like the product shots, and he's like, I kind of lost interest in your book when we got here, because this just started looking like what anybody could do. And I said to him, well, I just wanted to prove that I could take regular portraits in product photography. He's like, let's just stop. Let's just assume that you're a good photographer. I'm going to assume that you can take portraits and pictures of cologne bottles, but I'm going to want to see what your actual unique vision is. And if this is what the kind of work you want to do, then fill your book with this kind of stuff. So that was like a really good lesson for me, to be like, present the work that you want to get hired for. And so my first portfolio, I took all that other stuff out, and my first portfolio, right off the bat, all I wanted to do was this illustration stuff, because I didn't want to get hired to shoot, whatever else. So like I took this book, and then I right after school, my first major job was the department chair for photography at Art Center was also the creative director at Los Angeles Times. And she helped me. Her name was Nan Ocean, and I don't know where she's at right now, but she helped me develop this look, this photo illustration look. And right before I graduated, she hired me to do a cover for the Los Angeles Times magazine. And so I think that was one of my very first jobs. And then I also met with Paul Moakley. He's now I think he's the managing photo editor at Time. But at the time that I met with him, he worked for PDN. And I went and I took a book to New York and just knocked on every door that would let me in. Esquire magazine, PDN, Time. And Paul was one of the first people who saw something in my work and was like, and so I did a cover for, at the time, I think it was called Pix magazine. It was like a little insert magazine that was published along with PDN. And I don't think they publish Pix anymore. But so I did a cover for Pix, and then Time Incorporated started hiring me. And then just with those few jobs, it's kind of, that was kind of like the seed of it, and then kind of just continued working. And people aren't going to hire you if they don't see your work. They don't know who you are. So you have to always kind of be out there and presenting your work to people. So.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So there's a user that wants to come on and actually join the stream to ask you a question. So let's do that.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in. Okay, there we go.
Cool. Yeah. So hopefully he joins us soon. And in the meantime, you could probably get your.
Yeah. Do you want me to? Should I just go through and read these questions and then kind of address them one at a time? How's that sound?
Yeah, you could definitely do that. Okay. Oh, he's on. So here we go.
Hi.
Hey.
How you doing?
I had a question for you, which is, what do you think of how easy it is for young people, or people of any age, to get started in the photography field or any creative field in this day and age with like technology and how affordable things are now? And like, what's your take on all of that?
It's you know what? Like, I feel like I need to have young people telling me what to do, to be honest with you, because it's a brave new world as far as like what you have to do and what you have to acquire. I mean, I had an assistant who really helped me out kind of working on my Instagram, because that was something I was just kind of ignoring, you know? And so it's just, I like the democracy of it. I think that's the thing about it that I really like right now, is that there's not this, and it's like this in publishing or in filmmaking or in music making. You know, you kind of sacrificed sort of this really super high end stuff for an easier access point. It's whether you're creating music and you want to, you know, put your music out there, or whether you're making films. It's just it's a cheaper, easier access to all that stuff. And photography, you know, the photography branch of the entertainment business, if you will, which is commercial photography, has that same lowered access point as all these other branches of this type of work has. And it's kind of like what I was saying just a minute ago about, you have all of the tools in front of you to be recognized for your work. What's important is what vision you bring to it, because your creativity and vision and how you present your work, to me, that's the one thing that no one else can duplicate, no matter how cheap the camera is, or no matter how high resolution the cameras are, or no matter how easy it is to post stuff to Instagram or whatever format it is. It's your unique vision that's going to carry you and actually going to give you a leg up in the business. So I think that's the important thing. Did I answer the question clearly enough? I hope so.
Yeah, I definitely think you did. So let's jump into some images, and you could also adjust the questions. We'll kind of go back and forth.
Sure. Okay, that sounds good. Let me pull up. You want to just do the share screen?
Yeah. Let's bring that up.
Share. All right, cool. So right over here, there were some questions that did you want me to go through and talk about some of these questions that are on the side here?
Yeah, I would say maybe you want to do the miniature question. I think because that could talk about your process a little bit.
Okay, here we go. How much of your work is shot in miniature? Are there any other methods you use to achieve your hyper-real looks? Yeah, okay.
I love how we're like a million of us in your screen share.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, look at that. That's cool. Yeah, that's nice. That's like the infinite mirror there. Yeah. That's cool. All right, good. All right, so, yeah, I do a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff I do is in miniature. And it's kind of, it's not the only thing. In fact, over the years, it's gotten a little bit less that way, because it's just like, I don't want to be pinned in exactly by any one technique. So there's going to be lots of different ways to approach whatever project it is. And so, you know, you may or may not have something that, you know, that requires that. But if it's something that makes sense for it, then here's the bottom line. Whenever it comes to sketching, I don't want to ever be limited by the concept, by like, oh, how am I going to pull this off? And so I like to think in terms of, I can make this concept as big as I want to, because I'm going to be able to shoot as small as I want to. So, and what that means is, if it's a futuristic cityscape that requires, you know, all the stuff that you may not be able just to go out and shoot, I know that I can kind of use a film technique and go and create buildings and create a miniature and then shoot real people and then put them in there. And it does, like in the early days of my career, I was playing with scale a lot, that idea of scale. And now that was kind of like my look. But now, like I said, it's a bit broader. It's kind of whatever the project requires. So yeah, so I use miniature quite a bit still. In this, I have an image kind of pulled up on the screen here, and this is something that, this is something that I'm going to pull something with a bit more layers, just to make it a bit more interesting here. So this is, this is something that was shot for Popular Mechanics, And the idea here was, to have, the story was about disaster. And so if you look at this image here, everything in the foreground, so these models were shot in studio, and then everything in the foreground here, like we've got a kind of a destroyed house, which is in miniature. This house back here, the main house, that house is actually a full-scale house. So it was shot for this job, but it was just a house like on a street. Everything in the foreground is miniature. So you've got a miniature car kind of turned upside down. You've got a miniature little road. You've got a miniature house that's kind of been destroyed back here. You've got this house back here is just a miniature house that's got like some little kind of detailing on it. But then it's like the fire is added in post. The sky is this stock shot of a sky and a stock shot of a tornado. And then an actual stock shot of a helicopter here. But so you can see that nowadays the way that I work, it's like, okay, how much CGI is going to have to be involved? How much miniatures are going to have to be involved, and how much just in studio kind of full scale images are going to have to be involved to get to it. So I don't limit myself to any kind of one process. It's nice to, and I think that's probably, I used to kind of say to myself, oh, I'm the photographer who can kind of shoot miniatures, and then and that's kind of my thing, and it worked for me early on. But nowadays it's like it's long. Everything I do will end up looking, and I've had people kind of say that kind of thing to me too. It's like, oh, like for example, I had an assistant and we were working together, and it was a really, really simple job. The job was, maybe I can find it here just to.
Actually, CJ, can you stop the screen share and then start it and share just the application window? That way we can just focus on the. It'll just focus on the application. So if you're just using Photoshop, right?
Yeah. Okay,
yeah. So let's just do. And then so when you pull up the screen share, there's two tabs, and then the one on the right says application window.
Here, application window. Got it.
Yeah, that should do the trick.
Cool.
Yeah.
But I missed cool. I missed the infinite window of you and me, though.
That was cool. That was actually right up your alley too.
Okay, so yeah, just like you can shoot something as simple as just like a road sign, which I had to do for this client, and but as long as you've got that vision and you've been working on it for some time, then that it ends up looking like your work, because this person I was working with, like, yeah, it's simple, it's just a road sign, but I saw it and I knew that it was your work because it just had your unique kind of signature with it. So yeah, the answer, I guess the very long-winded answer to the question is, I'll use any technique that I need to use to get to the final image, to get to that final image, to the vision that I've had in mind. Here, I've actually found that image, so I'll just look that real quick. So that was it. It was just couldn't be a simpler shot, right?
Doesn't look that simple to me.
But it's just a road sign. But it's like somehow at the end of the day, with the techniques, that it ends up looking like my work at the same time, right? Yeah. So yeah. Cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone else asked here, what gear tools do you use that allow you to focus on your work? Okay. That's a good question. So Photoshop is obviously a big one. I don't really use any other kind of programs other than Photoshop to kind of put things together. And I still shoot with a Hasselblad, the old V-series Hasselblads with the digital back, and then I've got I use SLRs. It took me a long time because I started shooting when I was so young with Hasselblads, like medium format cameras. It's like the thing that I got the most comfortable with, and then like I went to Art Center, they start you off on 4x5. So then I shot, all large format for a while, and then like I remember like it was like third semester before they're like, okay, you can use something smaller than large format. So then it was down to medium format, and then by the time it was like these digital SLRs came along, I was so like scared, and they were like so foreign to me. But I have to admit that I have the ease and accessibility of and the speed of the smaller format cameras, like the SLRs, am starting to come along. So I've got like a Mark III that I've been shooting with, and every assistant that I work with makes fun of me because I have to ask them a ton of questions on. I'm always like, hey, how do I do this? Or let's quickly do, So, but again, it's almost the same answer to the question about like, do you always use miniatures or what are your techniques as far as that goes? You know what? It's just about the important thing about it is just how you're going to get to your end goal. And so whatever camera you're using or whatever it is that you have to do to get where you're trying to get to, it doesn't matter as long as you're able to accomplish and get the images that you want in the end. So I think that's always the best way to approach it.
Let's see. We also have, actually, I would say before we hit some of these other questions, let's probably just kind of, it'd be cool to walk through your process for like another series, maybe a more recent one. You talk about the covers, which I think is cool. And like, how does that develop? Because obviously it's not just you, you're also collaborating with art directors and.
For sure. Let's do that. Let's go through, let me pull up something here, just a recent project, and we can kind of go through the process of kind of how that works.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, let me pull up something that okay, give me just 1 minute here.
No problem. Anybody feel free to keep posting questions. I love some of the questions you guys are posting. This is awesome. And yeah, CJ, such cool work.
Cool. Okay, so let me 1251. This is something I recently did for Consumer Reports. 1251. Sorry. Okay, I'm just gonna pull this open. So I'm gonna pull. It might take a minute to open, but I'm gonna pull open the large file so we can just kind of see it.
Yeah, you can like zoom in there. Yep.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe let's see. Give me 1 sec here.
Yeah, let's see what I can do.
Okay, this might be an interesting one because this has. I want to do something that has miniatures in it too because I think people are interested in that a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me open this one up. 1250, 17. So this is for a client called McLean's Magazine, and they're out of Canada.
So I think you might need to redo it though because it's just showing this one window.
Oh, okay. Give me 1 sec here.
Yeah, it's still showing the. Yeah, so you probably want to stop the screen share and then restart, I think, just to be safe.
Let me open this up. Just give me a second here. Let me know if this works here. So I'm going to close that image. Have you got the street sign one now?
No, it's still the old family because I think it's just showing that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would just restart and then show that one again.
Yeah. All right, so that's opening up. And let me, in the meantime, so I'll go through and sometimes this is interesting to look at. Okay, so I've got, we were talking about the sketchbooks a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the sketchbooks are one of the most important things that I have. Let me just have a look at this video here. Okay, so if you can see this, I'll just show this. So you see these here? Oh, this one's kind of been worn down, so I've got to like take this back off. So I'm like weirdly obsessive about my sketchbooks, like to the point where it's like it's a little bit crazy for people who know me, where it's like these are actually one of the most important things that I have. And if you look right here, they're numbered on the side. So you've got like number 12, number 10. These aren't ordered. Number 9, number 11, number 8. So I have right now I'm working on sketchbook number 12, and that's since I graduated from school. And inside of these sketchbooks, I keep meticulous kind of notes on the kind of work that I do. So let's just go to a random page here from one of these sketchbooks. So this is from July 27th, 2010, and the client was Wall Street Journal. And then what I'll do is I'll just kind of thumbnail the idea. Like I'll write down, sometimes I'll brainstorm ideas, and sometimes these brainstorm ideas are really quick, and then I've already got the idea. And then sometimes I've got pages of brainstormed ideas. And then once I'm happy with the brainstormed ideas, I'll start thumbnailing just kind of what I think the concepts are for those ideas. And then once I've got an idea that I'm like kind of happy with, for example, let's say it's this guy here. It doesn't look like much in the thumbnail, but it's like in my mind's eye, I know exactly. I'm just quickly sketching it down. And then I move over into, okay, I'm going to sketch this out. And so I can kind of pull this idea together, and then I create, and then I will submit, up to 4 sketches, maybe more, and send those to the client. And then the client and I will work together on what those sketches are like. And then if you just look through the sketchbook, see if this helps. Like it's all those ideas just kind of sketched out. And so I just keep a meticulous book. Each one's dated. Each one has, you know, the information of the job I'm working on. And so what happens then is if at any point in time I have I need a bit more inspiration or something comes along, like a story idea, I might be able to say, you know, I think I've sketched something up that's similar to that. Or I've pulled something together before. And so then I can go back and look at those sketches, and then that will kind of either I might be able just to submit that sketch if I never actually shot it, or it might inspire me to do something new that's kind of in that realm. And so this job that we're talking about right now, like I said, this was for Maclean's magazine. Cool. So I'll just walk you through the process of this one job so you can see how it kind of evolved.
I love the disco ball in the background. Is anybody else catching that?
Yeah. Yes, I have a disco ball installed in my living room. So you can kind of see it back there. And at the moment, I've got drums and guitars and all kinds of stuff. So we can just kind of, at a moment's notice, start.
Anybody can just jam. That's cool.
An inspirational evening in my front room. We can just kind of play some music. So I like to be creating at all times. Whether it's
that's awesome.
Or visuals or whatever it is. Okay.
I love it. Music, art, photography.
You know, it's all part of it. So like, yeah, I should say too that like the idea of being a visual artist, to me that was always like my dad's job. He was a photographer, right? So I wanted to be a rock and roll singer.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be a rock star? Yeah.
So this whole photography thing is my backup plan. So no, but I mean anything you work on, it's you've got to put you, and that's the thing that's great about it. Like when I kind of got into it is you find that creativity inside of you, and then you pull it together, you know, and then if you're putting all of yourself into that, then that's what you kind of work on. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this really quick. So working with this client, I kind of had, it was a story about annuities, I think, or bringing cash out of your house or something, a little bit of a dry story. So these, you know, I kind of came up with the concepts of kind of what we're going to do. These were my thumbnails on it. And then these were the ideas that I submitted to the client. So you can see that. And so it was kind of like a dude standing on his house. There's a cash, you know, there's a sea of money. So basically he's like a sailor and his house is the boat and he's sailing. And then there was another one that was the same guy, probably, you know, protagonist here, with a light bulb over his head on the house on a mountain of cash, or it's under his bed or whatever the idea is. So, so that was kind of where it went. The client, you know, and this is pretty typical of kind of how this happens. So I've got these two images. The client says, I really like sketch 3 and 4. Can we combine those two? Like, what if he's on the front with a monocular and he's, you know, so basically it's like, yeah, okay, that's great. So we take that image, and then I'll just pull this open here really quick. Let's see, share screen.
I love your little sketches.
Okay. Application window, I'm in.
Yeah, I love your little sketches. They're so cool.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with that sketch. So this is a combination of those two sketches right there. You can see that? So that's the sketch that the client approves, and that's, you know, you can see my process for kind of getting to that sketch. And so now it's like,
yeah, we can see it.
Okay, it's simple, right? Because it's like, okay, now I've just got to produce the image that I promised them that I would produce. So now I think this will be interesting. So what I did, this is just through Photoshop here. Now you can just see this image, right? You don't see all the stuff that's going around it. Okay, so I'm going to build this up just a little bit.
The image.
It's been a while since I've looked at this, so we'll learn together. So I have, this is something, and I'm sure that like a lot of photographers have banks, but I try and always have a camera on me because I'm always having little like clouds. Like if I ever see something, like I could use that eventually in an image. So I have about 100,000 skies. I don't know how many skies, but I have whole things where it's just skies that I've shot. And sometimes it's like all I have on me is my iPhone, but like I need this section of sky, you know, so I'll shoot the sky. Or if I've got an SLR on me, you know, I try and keep my Mark III in my car at all times, which my brother makes fun of me for. But he's like, yeah, you're going to lose that camera. I'm like, well, I just want the images off. That's all that's really important to me. But so always having access so I can shoot any given sky that I need. So, you know, I pulled out one of my skies from my image bank here. And then it's like, you know, you start kind of placing things together as needed. And so it's just a hue saturation layer here. And then what I've got here, this is a miniature house. So I have a house that, I like to say that I've got a tiny Hollywood backlot in my storage unit, because this is a house that I had. You can see that I went in and I painted it here, painted it green for the story because I just thought it looked good against the sky. But you can see it's only a single-story house. And in my sketch, if you remember, let's go back to the sketch real quick. It was very much a vertical 2-story house. But this is the house that I had shot from my my miniature collection. So I went back in. I was like, okay, let's double the height of that. So just in Photoshop, I just doubled the height of the house and just kind of brought that element up. And then there's, I went and shot, and just for an added level of reality, I went and shot real doors and real windows to kind of place on this miniature house. And that just helps kind of add in the extra element of like, oh, you're not questioning sort of the reality of it all. And then all these layers are just things to kind of clean it up. There's an extra window that kind of just adds that extra little element. So as these things kind of come together, there's color correction levels. Now, the money, this is the thing, and I don't have a production photo of it just at the moment, but the stack of money that this house sits on, this is actually shot in my studio. And this money right here, Canadian, because it was a Canadian client, but you can see they're each about an inch long. This is all practically shot. There's no magic Photoshop in that. That's an actual stack. I use black wrap, which is like basically tin foil that has like a matte black painting on it. It's production tin foil. You can use it to wrap your camera or keep light flares out or whatever. And then each one of those, I spent, believe me, hours and hours and hours printing and cutting out individual 1-inch long slices of Canadian $100 bills. And then basically just spray mounted them to this black wrap. And I've got, and you can see this is the actual, I went through, and in the computer, that little like fallout that happens behind, those were all the pieces where I couldn't fill in the black wrap. So those are just little elements that I had to go in and cut out. It might be worth, let me just look at this real quick. Let me see if I can pull open this really quickly. A shot. Okay. So I'm going to open up this really quick. So that's actually a shot of the money, no Photoshop anything. You can see that it's a pile of money. It's actually a pile of money. And so my whole theory, and here we go. Here's a shot of a house sitting on that pile of money. So you can see how that differs a little bit from what it was. And I just needed to go in, and if you see here, here's the house sitting on the money, and all the little bit of work that goes into it. And you can see I just went in, and you just have to have patience. So I went in and cut out all the black wrap.
CJ, it's just showing the money shot.
Let me see. We're not seeing those other shots? Okay. I wonder what I need to do to get... Let me know if this works.
I see something, but it's like a blurry something.
Blurred, isn't it? Yeah, it's just not working very well, is it? Let me go back to that image, and then we can kind of concentrate on that. Let me see. If not, I can restart the screen share.
Okay, cool, yeah. But yeah, no, that looks super cool, and it's great to kind of see the process, how you putting everything to... Okay, yep, so we have the money again.
Okay, so I'll stick on this image. Yeah, the idea is that it's just, you have to focus on each one of those little elements. So here, again, I'm working with miniature, right? But it's like, it's miniature at different scales. I mean, the miniatures... And so the reason why, so I've got that, and then I just duplicated that layer and filled in all that money behind it. And then we can kind of back out, and we can see that's where I'm at the moment. And now I've got to add the model in, shot, with the spyglass there. And then after that, it's just basically correction layers. So that's how you're going to go from this to that, and kind of work towards a final image. So, and again, it was just a matter of working on whatever little, and an important thing here, and I'll just note this with this picture, something that I think compositors, like I've had this happen with like clients before, where it's like, I've gone in and spent a lot of time working on a project, and it's like, I tell them like how I approach it. And like this one client, and I won't mention the client directly, but it's like, basically, we spent hours kind of setting up this thing where it's like the light has to come from this way, and we shoot all these products, and all the products are going to end up floating around in the final image. I like to keep, like, as much as I love pre-production and the sketching phase, I really love post-production, because then it's like all the way through I have my hands in on it. So I do most of my own post-production and all my own pre-production. So it's like I'm involved in every step of the way. Because a lot of times what happens, and this was a really large job, an ad job that we were shooting, and when they took it over and then they were sending me the images, I'm like, why do these look so off? And what they were doing was they were taking the products we'd shot and just flipping them arbitrarily and then sticking them wherever they wanted. And I'm like, the problem with that is I lit everything from, let's say, camera left. And then if you're taking products and then just flipping them, they look funny because now they don't have the same lighting. And so this is a good image to actually look at that with, because you can see that even though all these elements were shot separately and then put together, they all are lit exactly the same. They have the same lighting ratios, so that when you do the composite and put them together, your mind doesn't question that they're in the same image, because they're lit exactly the same way. If that makes any sense. So anyway, so just a little technique, a little note on the technique of how to kind of pull that together. So
cool. Okay, let's see. We got another question here. It
Sure.
says, of all the stunning visual work you've made so far in your career, which is your favorite? That's probably tough, but
yeah,
I guess let's say maybe the last 6 months or so.
That you and I were
Right.
talking. You and I were talking about.
Yeah, I would say that's good. You're just setting up.
Yeah, I'm just setting up. I'm doing an entire screen share here. So now we're back to our cool little vortex.
Yeah, the vortex.
Yeah, so this is something. Let me just look at something. No, that's not. Okay. Yeah, so Jamal, this is something you and I were talking about beforehand. So I'm just going to open up, and this isn't even like all of it. I've been slowly putting together all of my work so I can quickly pull up images so I have them all. So this is just the last couple years' work right here that I've shot, that I've started compiling and putting together. Can you see that? Is that working on the screen share? Jamal, are you there?
Yeah, it's working. Yep, working A-okay.
Okay, good. So this is just the last couple years here of work, kind of, and so you can see you go through a lot of images, and what ends up happening, and this is probably what ends up happening for most people, because this is what ends up happening for me, is that your favorite images are the ones that just kind of end up in your portfolio. And so, you know, you go back and you look at an image like this that I did for the Wall Street Journal, and I'd love it just because it kind of stands out. It's striking, you know. Let's see, what else kind of comes to mind. And, you know, you can like different images for different reasons. They can become, you know, sentimental favorites. And it's a little bit hard because each one of your images sort of becomes like a child, and there's like a little story to each one. And you can say, oh, I remember on the production of this one, we had this, and this happen, or, you know, for whatever reason. This is one of my recent favorites here because of my love of sort of the sci-fi genre or whatever. And this was an image that I created completely from scratch. It wasn't for a client, and this is all in camera. And so it just the approach and the fact that I could treat it exactly how I wanted to, and the fact that it's like a 4x4 foot miniature and built it from scratch. But, you know, going back and looking at the beginning of my career, there's those images that you know, there's an image. Let's see, do I have it open right now? Like, this is another favorite one that I have done in the last little while. Let's have a look here. It's something that tells a story. For me, the more romantic, sort of bigger idea images, those are the ones that, you know, you really kind of fall in love with and you want to put in your book. And it always comes back to that same idea that I had when I first started working with. Well, put in your book the kind of work that you want to get hired to do. Here's another one that might be kind of fun to talk about just really quickly. So this is all in camera except for our two models. Everything else, and, you know, the explosions and that kind of stuff's also done in computer graphics. But the image on this one, I mean, the tank is it's a miniature tank. The sand is real sand. In fact, I shot this on a ping pong table. I have a big ping pong table in my studio, and it's sometimes I need to pull it out because I'm like, I just need a really big surface. And I just spray painted some MDF board with chrome blue spray paint. So that's the base of the water. And then I went and I bought a massive amount of KY jelly. That's what the water is. And so, you get some funny looks sometimes when you're checking out 10 bottles of KY jelly at the pharmacist, but you have to just assure them that they're gonna be used for good reasons. So that's what the water is. It's just KY jelly and blue paint, and then some really fine grained sand, and everything here is, like I said, it's in camera except for the 2 models that were shot separately. So yeah, there's been a lot of great images, and you look, like I said, you look back, and all your favorite ones are the ones that you typically end up taking and then using for your portfolio.
Awesome, cool. So I would say kind of a final question that we could hit on from Eric Landon here, and he says that way I think kind of wraps up this whole great, awesome experience would be, he says, can you please share some of the biggest challenges you faced or your career? Are you facing any big challenges now? Most importantly, what's your process to overcome them, or how do you attack struggle? And it could be on jobs or just in general, I guess, in the creative genre. Yeah,
is it, you're up? Maybe I should stop the screen share. So let me just.
Yeah.
That it's challenging to be a freelance commercial artist. I think that's quite an understatement. It's something that you have to work hard to maintain a steady enough flow of projects that keep you afloat, that are interesting, that you like doing. I mean, it is a challenging career. It's rewarding, obviously, because you get to, at the end of the day, if it works out for you, you get to do what you want. You get to be a creative person, and if you're doing this kind of thing, you're undoubtedly a very creative person. And so you are able to exercise those parts of your brain, and I'll also say exercise the demons inside of you that you want to get out. For me, the hardest things, are when you want to work and you want to produce images, and you just have to find, those outlets and those things to work on. So it's very important to always be, and the biggest challenge I think for any artist is to be able to discipline yourself in a way that you stay on top of constantly finding work, even when you're busy. And that's one of the challenges. I think that's the biggest challenge that I have, is that you start to get busy, and it's great because you're busy and you've got maybe 5 or 6 projects on the go. And it's really difficult to manage your time because you've got to make sure you meet this deadline, and you please this client, and you work on that thing. And you've got a lot of balls in the air at one time. But one of the balls you have to always keep in the air is finding work. Because you could be busy for a couple months, and if all you've done that whole time is had your head down and working on these projects, as soon as that last every project that ends, you're out of work until the next project comes, right? So if you're not concentrating and working on the projects that are coming up and making sure you have projects coming up, then, so you always want to be, and that's where little things like having a rep can help out. Those are the things where, signing up for certain programs that always are kind of having your work out there. So you just have to stay on top, and that's the challenge, I would think, is just, let's pretend there's pools, and let's just say there's 3 pools that you have to work in. The first is the finding pool, the second is the working pool, and the third is the billing pool. Well, you want to keep this is all the reality of it. If you want to maintain a living as a working commercial artist, you've got to keep all those pools filled at all times. And that's how it works. That's how you always have money coming in. Because if you're concentrating too much on any one of those pools, the other 2 pools are going to suffer. And so that's one of the biggest challenges, making sure that you stay on top of all 3 of those so that you can continue to work. And that just takes discipline and hard work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was great. just kind of see your whole process. So everybody feel free to check out his website, which if you go to the Creatr tab on the right, CJ, you can't actually see this, but everybody else can, because yourself, of course, so there's no point to show you that. But yeah, follow him on Instagram. That's usually where he posts a lot of the updated content, like covers. Yep. There's a really cool Trump cover that you did, which I think is awesome, obviously super relevant. Yeah, I guess probably as a fun little story, what do you think about working on work like that? And I think I can quickly pull that one up.
Sure. Yeah, so that's actually on newsstands right now. That's the cover of Newsweek, and I work for Politico quite a bit and do covers for them, and I've done a few Trump covers there. And like the funny thing is, like I've always said, and we were having the same conversation this time. I was like, I mean, my goal on that is just to get him to tweet about me. If I could have him, if I could do something that aggravates him enough that he tweeted about me, that'd be great publicity. So, so that's it. So, and this one, I'll quickly kind of pull up that. So we were working on that, and you know, the creative director came to me and he's like, "Hey, so this is what we want to do, something on this." And I'll give you this. It was a story about Breitbart News, and so I'll just give you a little bit of background kind of images on that. So these were sort of the concept sketches that we were working on for that cover. And the first one was just the Breitbart, all these hands kind of holding him up, you know, and he's kind of like the emperor and kind of telling them where to go here. And then there's another thought that maybe instead of them like holding him up, they were wanting something from him. And so in this one, he's more being pulled by all the hands, right? And then you can see how this image kind of evolved, right? So it ended up being Alex Marlowe, but in this one it was Steve Bannon. So you can see my little interpretation of what Steve Bannon looks like. But I had this idea that Trump, you know, Trump's just going to step on whoever he needs to, right, to get where he's going. So I had this idea that it'd be kind of funny if Trump was just kind of standing on him and kind of stepping up. And then that evolved into this idea of him being on the shoulders, right? So you can see, and now seeing how the process is, and this is all going back and forth with the creative director about where we want to go with this image, right? And then, let's see, I don't think I even have the sketch of the final image in there. Give me 1 second. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up larger. But I'll have
it on my desktop. Give me 1 second here. I'll open up. So basically, we went from that concept of him standing on the shoulders, and then the conversation that the creative director and I had was, okay, so what if we had him sitting on shoulders? Because that will allow us in the frame, and and then we can kind of increase the amount, basically make him bigger. And plus, we thought it was kind of funny too with him sitting on the shoulders because it just seemed more like infantile-like, which seemed to kind of fit with the story. It was just kind of funnier, like him sitting on the shoulders, not standing. And so that kind of ended up there being the sketch that turned into the cover, right?
Yeah.
And so you can see how that kind of translates into what kind of finally happened. So that's a really good, and that's, you can go and find that right now on newsstands. So that's a really good example of how you've got a seed of an idea. I mean, the seed of the idea with the creative director was, we want to tell something about Trump abusing the people that got him into office, and one of those being Breitbart News. What do you have? And then you can see the process of like, okay, you kind of beat your brain and like, I don't know, I got some ideas. Maybe he's like being pulled. Maybe he's standing on the shoulders. And then it's a great collaboration because that shows that how working with a really good creative director, it can be standing on shoulders. It's cool with sitting on the shoulder. It's that little give and take and that push and pull that kind of ends up getting to that right image. And then on that particular image, I mean, you're dealing with public figures. So then we had to find headshots that worked because obviously we're not going to get Trump in studio to do it, So you have to find a headshot, and so you have to clear the rights to that headshot, and then I have to hire body doubles and shot the body doubles. I don't know, just really quick. I know we're kind of running over a little bit, but I'll just kind of run through how that kind of looks.
This is cool.
Okay. I'll open this really quick, and I'll make sure that I've got it opened up. So let's see, what does it look like in the window right now? What have we got? But I think I have to it's weird. I think I have.
Yeah, you'll need to refresh.
Application. Okay. Okay, so there's the cover, right?
Yep.
We got that. Okay, cool. So let's go back now. Let's go back, and I'll just kind of show you how this kind of got built up. Okay, so there's the sketch. And I know what the problem is here. Hold on 1 second. Okay, shoot, this file's not going to work. Give me 1 second. Let me open up another file here really quickly. Sorry. Okay. Oh, and I'll open up this really quick too. This might be interesting. Let me do.
No worries. This is awesome.
option on it was, and this was, so the creative director and I were talking, entire screen. We were talking about things that were kind of funny, and he said, you know, this is funny with him on Bannon's shoulders or Marlowe's shoulders, but what if he was on the Statue of Liberty's shoulders? So this was actually an alternative shot that we had. Can you see that there? Let me see. Yeah, that went up right. Okay, so and it was kind of funny because we were like, yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's fun. Because I wanted to have the Statue of Liberty really stressed out, so you can see like the sweat on her face and her worried look. And then we kind of got to this point where we were doing it, and he's like, and what if he was holding the flame? And we just thought it was great, you know. So this was actually almost the cover, but then it went back to more specifically the idea of the of him on Marlowe's shoulders. Okay, let me see. Yeah. So that's the image without the headmask on it. Okay. How does that look? Does that look good enough right there to kind of go through? We'll just kind of break this down. That looks A-okay. A-okay. Okay, good. So let me just kind of go through this here really quickly. And this is kind of interesting to see how this kind of came together, actually. Okay, so first of all, we've got the background of the studio shot there, right? And then we've got the models themselves. And I don't have one of them on here. I cut them out from the background. But you can see there's our models right there. And I knew, you know, we knew kind of how we were going to build this around. So it's like, and this dude actually kind of looked like Alex Marlowe a little bit, but our Trump guy, like his face looks, he doesn't look like Trump at all, but we had enough kind of built up with his body to kind of pull it together. And so then we kind of changed it up and took off his arms and legs, and then kind of started placing back in the arms that I knew I was going to use. So this is just one of the other shots of our model there. And then let's see here, put some cufflinks in. So this is kind of where we were. This is all just kind of basically with a little bit of Photoshop. This is basically what we shot in studio right here. And then of course we had to find, you know, and then you drop Trump's head, and you can see how immediately it starts to work with his body, right? And again, this kind of goes back to that thing that I talked about earlier, to where the lighting has to be the same. So I already had this image of Trump's face. We knew that was going to be the one that we had the rights cleared on and that we were going to use. We wanted to have him to have that smarmy look that he gets, you know. And so we'd already found that image, and I based the lighting of this image around that image of him. And that's why you can do that composite. And it works well enough to where you don't, your mind doesn't question it. And then, you know, Alex Marlowe brought him in, had to do some color correction to kind of get his face right, and then added in sweat, all kinds of stuff here. Let's see. To kind of bring all the elements here together. So, yeah, and then you go. And then you end up with the cover. So, you know, it's funny because it kind of reverse engineering it that way. It seems simple enough. But it's a little bit.
That's super cool.
See how you get to
that whole process.
Yeah, it's cool together. So I don't know. I hope that's interesting. So
no, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So like I was saying before we got into that whole thing, definitely check out his Instagram, because that's where you'll see the latest covers, and obviously you could check out his website as well. Definitely super cool stuff. Would love to have you back on here again whenever you're doing cool work.
Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely amazing. Now you know how the site works. You can even do this without me being here.
I'll do like a Katy Perry thing. I'll just have a 24-hour webcam. You guys can watch me like, I'm like making some eggs. You know what I mean? That's super interesting. I start with like cracking the shell. I could walk you through that whole process.
And then dance around the ball, and then start playing some drums and music. Yeah, totally cool.
It's much more effective at night, by the way. The daytime, it's really cool at night. You should see it, man. It's great.
Awesome.
Let's do that on the 24-hour webcam. You'll really get it.
All right, so you heard it here, folks. 24-hour webcam with CJ Burton. All right, so thank you so much. We'll definitely be in touch again. Everybody, you'll be able to watch the replay in about 5 minutes if you missed something or just tuning in late. Definitely check out his work. His work is absolutely amazing. And if you're happen to be passing by a newsstand, feel free to grab it and check out the finished product of how you saw that today. So CJ, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. That was a lot of fun.
All right, take care.